All right. Hi, I am Drew Clemenson, Field Services Program Manager here at the Iowa Soybean Association's Research Center for Farming Innovation. We're going to spend the next 15-16 minutes here talking about nitrogen management opportunities and some of the trial work that we did in 2021. We'll jump right into it here then. Looking at our nitrogen management trials, and these are using 5 different rates of nitrogen across our acres in an attempt to better understand what our optimum rates of nitrogen are, and also for help in creating management zones for our variable rate nitrogen prescription opportunities. So we had 3 of these trials in 2021. We're going to look at 2 of them here today. These 2 that we're going to look at are both corn on corn trials. The third one was a corn following soybeans, and we're in north central Iowa and northeast Iowa. And then both of these trials use UAN side dress as their means of nitrogen. So if we look at the data then from these 2 trials, we have one trial represented by the blue bars, second trial represented by the black bars, and then our 5 rates of nitrogen across the bottom. You can see from our 80 through 200 pounds. And these are a little bit unique for corn on corn trials, where typically we like to start at 110 pounds and go through 230 pounds in our corn on corn scenarios. But nonetheless, this is what the trials were this year. So this is the data we're going to present. So if we look at the data and what's it's telling us, I think the takeaway is right here. Somewhere between 170 and 200 pounds, we start to see our yields plateau and find our maximum return to nitrogen somewhere between that 170 and 200 pounds. And then you can see again in the trial represented by the black bars that same trend, where somewhere between 170 and 200 pounds, we seem to be finding our plateau in our yield and nitrogen needs. And then I would point out too that the trial represented by the black bars did not have a 110 pound rate, not that it didn't yield 110 pound or 100 bushel. So was just a 4 rate trial, I guess. So that's what 2021 data looked like. If we go back and historically look at some trials that we had from 2020 and then one from 2018, again, corn on corn trials where we had the same 5 rates of nitrogen. There were 2 trials in 2020 one of them represented by the blue bars, the second one represented by the red bars then. And again, we see those same trends. So that 170 to 200 pounds, we seem to find our yield plateau. And same thing with the trial represented by the blue bars, that 170 to 200 pounds. We're seeing our maximum return to our nitrogen investment and our yield start to plateau or definitively flatten off. The one trial from 2018 then over on the right side, you can see kind of that same trend where we definitely are starting to find that 170 to 200 pounds as our sweet spot for our nitrogen management. Switch gears here then and look at some trials looking at some variable rate nitrogen opportunities. Some quick kind of viewpoints from our perspective with variable rate nitrogen. Approximately 10% of the corn acres in Iowa right now are using some sort of variable rate prescription. Most of those prescriptions are being developed by local crop consultants or advisors. And then in looking at those prescriptions, there is no clear direction as to what data or what layer to be using for creating these prescriptions. So we look at what was done in these trials. There were variable rate nitrogen test blocks put out across the landscape. And more importantly, I guess I would say the blocks were solid rates of nitrogen, and then surrounded by the prescriptions that were run on the rest of the field. And there were 4 fields in these trials looking at these variable rate prescriptions, all of them very high in variability in terrain and soil type and yield environment. And in doing so, then try to randomly get these blocks placed across these fields accordingly. So we're randomly putting blocks out there, looking at high yield environments, represented kind of on the map there by the green areas, the low yield environments in the red areas, and then hopefully capturing everything in between as well to help us learn what a prescription can do for us. And then we looked at some calculated yields and economics of these 4 trials. So a little bit closer look up here, look at what the blocks look like. And again, you can see, as I already mentioned, that our flat rates are actually what our blocks look like, and then surrounded by our variable rate prescription around those solid blocks. And the prescription themselves, then, these particular ones were created using the best yield history from the best performing year of the field, and then reducing our nitrogen rates in our lower yielding spots of the field, and then increasing our nitrogen rates in our higher yielding areas. And then give credit to Acumen Ag over in Western Iowa for creating these prescriptions for these trials. So like I said, there were 4 of these trials. We're only going to look at one of them here today in the interest of time, but here it is. So we look at our nitrogen use advantage, our chart over on the left, and we can see that maybe at 180 pounds, we were under applying some nitrogen, losing some opportunity there. But as we got into those higher rates of nitrogen, there was definitely an advantage to going to a prescription to reduce our nitrogen rates as a whole across the farm. On the right, then, our yield advantage, and again, missed out on some yield opportunity at that lower 180 pound rate, but definitely as we got into those higher rates of nitrogen, our yield did not change when we went to a prescription. Some economics then quick with this particular trial. And so we're looking at the same chart here, the only difference being 550 bushel corn versus $6 per bushel of corn, and then looking at 3 different nitrogen prices. So the gray bar being 50 cents for a pound a unit of N, the blue bar 75 cents a unit of N, and then the black bar $1 a unit. And you can see again where that 180 pounds maybe missed some profit on the table, but definitely as we started to increase our nitrogen rates and our cost per pound of N, there was definitely an opportunity to be more profitable, where variable rate prescription became more profitable as those 2 variables increased. Lastly, then, looking at one final format of trial, when we start talking about ways to reduce our inputs in general, but manage our nitrogen better, and especially when we start talking about high nitrogen prices and volatile nitrogen prices, how can we get a better handle on that? And so this is a simple trial here, looking at 8 different trials where it was simply take your base nitrogen program and then reduce that by 50 pounds and repeat that across the acres. And so what we're looking at here, so we have our 8 trials across the bottom. The blue bar then would be the average for our standard rate of nitrogen, and the orange bar, our average of our 50 pounds less. So if we look at this quick and put some numbers to it, this is where we're at. So the first trials here, we had a 3 bushel advantage to our standard nitrogen program. The next 2 trials, we saw more of a significant advantage, 10 or 11 bushels. The next 2 about flat, no yield difference at all. And then the final 2, 3 bushels and upwards of 5 bushels. Average all those trials together, it puts us at a 4.2 bushels advantage to our standard program. And then so if we put numbers to that kind of right quick, like $5 corn, 4 bushel advantage, we're 2-ish dollars something, trying to do math quick, yield advantage, but it also costs us 50 pounds of nitrogen to get there. And so if our 50 pounds of nitrogen was 50 cents a unit, we're at $25 an acre to get there. So on average, it's a wash between our yield advantage and what it costs us to get there. So just wanted to run these 8 trials by you quickly, and point out that when we start talking about nitrogen management and reducing our nitrogen rates, a lot of us get pretty scared when we start talking reducing 50 pounds of nitrogen. But these trials go to show that at an average, it can be done. And I don't know that 50 pounds is the right answer, but it's definitely a challenge to start doing your own nitrogen management trials on your own acres. And it might not be 50 pounds, it might be 20 pounds, it might be 30 pounds, but this definitely highlights the ability to make a change. And so, like I say, I just want to put that in front of you and give you a little food for thought as we end the day here. If you'd like any more information or help setting up a nitrogen management trial for yourself, we're more than willing to help or walk you through that or give you insight as to what we know. So with that, I will end the presentation here today, and thank you for joining me, and look forward to seeing you on the webinars going forward. Thank you.